Well, hello, IB listeners, and welcome back for the third installment of IB Remastered. Today we go back to the third article written by the one and only Jamie Fristrom of Torpex Games. I realized today that I had neglected to plug Jamie's blog at the start and end of the articles, so I'll end that bad habit now and instruct every one of you to head over to www.gamedevblog.com for the raw, uncensored, written versions of Jamie's articles. Why don't we continue the trend of giving you a little industry broadcast history here as well? There are two main reasons why I'm re-recording these articles. Firstly, it took me a little bit to figure out how Audacity works, mainly how to save an MP3 with a variable bit rate, meaning the sound quality is adjusted dynamically depending on the complexity of the audio. So blank spaces, for example, like that, would be compressed to high hell because no one seems to give a damn about high quality silence, although probably most of us should, and keeps the talking at another end and music even higher. So, in order to get the file size to manageable levels, I had to compress the living daylights out of the MP3s, which in turn made them sound like poop. Secondly, it was because the quality of my voice. I was a little paranoid in the beginning about my voice sounding nasally, geeky, and just as far from that as a broadcaster as possible, that I tried to create a radio voice for myself. Well, it ended up sounding pretty goddamn awful, much like the Microsoft text-to-speech program, as I was told by someone on a forum somewhere. The sad part was that it took so many articles for me to finally come around to this fact, but even after that, I still tweaked the audio just a little bit, adding a tiny little echo here and boosting the bass to make it sound a bit more pronounced. The last tweaks worked out alright, but the radio voice, well, that's an atrocity of epic proportions. So here we are, re-recording them all, so no one has to go and listen to that again. But they will be left up, so if you want something to laugh at, they're there. Enough of the history lesson, though. Let's get down to brass tacks and dive into audio article number 003, titled Most Projects Suck by Jamie Fristrom. Now, did I mention his blog can be found at gamedevblog.com? Didn't think so. You should probably check it out, though. Oh, and if you haven't figured it out by now, this is Industry Broadcast. The fact is, almost all projects suck in one way or another, even high-profile ones. The Sims came in late. Half-Life came in late. Most high-profile Nintendo titles came in late. Spider-Man, the last game I helped ship, well, it was on time, but went way over our original budget, and we cut content. This problem isn't limited to game development either. Anyone seen Lost in La Mancha? It's a documentary about a movie project that's got hopelessly creamed, and a friend of mine hired a contractor last year to do some work on his house. It's still not done. The horror. And when projects go wrong, management is held responsible. Side note, I was talking to someone who works at Fox the other day, and she said that movie projects almost never get cancelled. So don't get me wrong, games get bungled a lot more often than movies. Here's the part where I'm supposed to say, you've come to the right place. If you only read my column, you'll learn everything you need to know about shipping a product on time, on budget, without compromising quality. But I'm not going to do that, because I've never seen an original title achieve that. You can do it with ports. You can sometimes do it with games where you just create new levels without changing the underlying engine much. But if you want to make an original title with new features and new content, you could expect chaos. Your plan will not survive contact with the enemy. What I will say is this. I've seen a lot of projects, and most of them ran even less smoothly than the ones I've been a lead on. So unless you're one of those rare projects where you never have to cut features and will ship on time and on budget, you might have something to learn here. Because I'm going to present the techniques we use on my team to manage projects. These techniques have been used to ship games. These techniques, applied judiciously to your own project, can make a difference. You'll cut fewer features and you'll slip by less time. Or you'll go less over budget. This column is not going to be about making the greatest game ever. All it can provide is some techniques that should help you do better than the industry norm. Now, maybe you're a grunt in the pixel mines on a Doom project. Maybe, like me, you're a manager who's got promoted from the coding trenches, and now with no formal training, you're expected to run a team of several people. Or maybe you're a producer working on the biggest project you've ever had to run. This column should be useful for all of you. What I don't want to hear you saying is, I'm just such and such. My boss wouldn't go for this. My hands are tied. I say to you, a hobbit can contend with the will of Sauron. If you recognize a way to help your project, whether it's in something from this column or somewhere else, try running it by your boss or your teammates. If it's really important to you, follow up on it. Some people call this whining, other people call it disrespecting authority. I call it doing your job. Chances are you're in a better position than your boss to recognize certain problems. An obvious example is whether you're going to finish the work you're doing on time or not. At the very least, your boss is going to want to address your concerns. They know the big picture, and they have the wisdom from experience. So if you consider your idea, and then they shoot it down, you may have to face the possibility that it was a stupid idea. If you're sure that it was an important idea, volunteer to do whatever it takes to make that idea a reality. A friend of mine who does IT for the phone company has an expression: you pet the kitty, you own the kitty. That philosophy is a decent way to separate the idea people really care about from the ideas that they wouldn't lift a finger for. If you're willing to own the kitty, you've crossed over the line from whining to doing. Even still, your boss will probably say, that's great, but what I really need you to be working on is this, because it's our highest priority right now. At which point you can either put in overtime to do it, or ask if you can do it later when things aren't so crazy. Now, speaking as someone who's been on both sides of the "I've got great ideas, boss" equation, I know that it can be exhausting to have people under you managing up. They've got all these suggestions, and you can spend your entire day following up on people's suggestions and never get any work done. You do something to make person A's job easier, and you end up making person B's job harder. You do something to make life easier now, and you end up making life harder later on, and so on and so on. My advice here is to recognize that the guys managing up are your most valuable teammates, but be firm. Almost all of the ideas that come your way are going to take the form of, we can invest some time now and save time later. Each time you're going to have to decide if risking your near-term commitment is going to be worth the eventual payoff. When it isn't, you'll just have to risk hurting somebody's feelings. Such is life. So now that you're all set up to make some changes at work, what changes should you make? Well, I'll go into some of these in my future columns. But if you can't wait that long, you could read my previous article, Production Testing and Bug Tracking, because one of the best ways to desuckify a project is to fix bugs early, rather than saving them for later. Well, that wraps up another short little article from Jamie Fristrom of Torpax Games, and did I remember to mention his blog at www.gamedevblog.com? I'm Ryan Wienko, as always, signing off from IndustryBroadcast.com, bringing the collective insight of the gaming industry to your ears.